Hello.
I am so looking forward to hearing about your journey. So I'd love you to just introduce yourself, your origin story. So whether that is your professional origin or all the way back to growing up, whatever you decide that's going to be, I think that's where we'll start today.
Okay. Hi everyone. Thanks Bina for inviting me. Simpure, thanks. I think both Simpure and Alfie have known them for a couple of years too, and I've followed them quite, and from the empowerment actually I'm learning quite a lot. I can attest in terms of one of the pillars that he has just mentioned that really transformed some of my journeys. So yeah, I grew up from a township called Beckersdale. It's in the western side of Johannesburg. It's a mining town. That's where I grew up. I've got two siblings. There's three of us. We're all boys.
Okay.
Yeah. So upon growing up, I graduated in Cape Town, and I spent almost 10 years in Cape Town. And to just align with the theme for the day, especially about the most blunders that I did. Mine, I think I started early. It's a job. So it's similar during that time in terms of the blunders that I did. It's a job. One of them that was a turning point. Was, one of the blunders that I had was the issues in dealing with not knowing who you are. The issues in dealing with what value for you.
Yeah.
So I met a lady from East Rand, one Shire, Kamurata, and I loved her so much to the point whereby everything meant everything for her and not for me. So the biggest blunder that I did during that time was to forsake who Patrick is. The biggest blunder was me shifting everything about my life to her. What I mean by it was that every cent that I'll get from anyone, I'll transfer it there, thinking that is another way of keeping the relationship. These were the blunders that I did.
How old were you?
I was probably 18, 19. At that time, if my memory serves me well, and the reason that I'm mentioning this one, you see, it is one of those events that really was a turning point in my life.
I love the fact that you're going there.
Yeah,
you know,
so,
and that the conversation is not just fully focused on just business, but that you're bringing it home. You're making it personal, right? And I love that you're sharing a very defining moment for you. So what was it?
So dealing with insecurities.
Wow.
So issues that I had there was, I remember when during that time when you just had an ID, retail companies like go through it. Will just give you an account at any given moment.
Yeah.
So I will go in, give me an ID, and they'll give me an account, and I'll take all the account and give it to this lady. She was very pretty, and that was part of the things that I thought it was. But when the .coms came, IT was booming during that time, and my girl was taken, and I cried.
Taken?
By someone.
Okay.
So, by Shabika still. A turning point when I'm putting a summary to that was during my low time, I went to the lady and I begged that I know that you're with someone, but is it possible? I think it was a 4-year relationship. I begged her to be a side, what do you call it?
A side guy.
After 4 years in that relationship, I loved her so much to the point where I said, I accept you're with someone. Can I be another man? And it was refused point blank in regards to that. But at what point when I was crying, there was another guy who was the dean at the university where I was. He started introducing me to finding myself. He found me when I was lost. He found me when I didn't know what meaning of love is. He found me when I was on a deficit about knowing the type of person that I am. And now in that regard, he's the man that introduced me to reading. because it was one of the fundamental foundations that transformed the person that you see today. So I was introduced early on in the 90s to people like Stephen Covey. I mean, I remember one of those ones was The 7 Habits was out early in the 90s.
Yeah.
I started reading that book. The first things first came out. I learned from there to transform the person that I am. And cutting the long story short in regards to getting to the journey in my life, I've decided that today, if there are 2 or 3 things that I wanted to share, was amongst this. One of them is the taking of the risk that I did in my life. One of them was when I graduated.
Let's just start there for a second though. Pat, I think it's so important to just acknowledge the fact that you took that heartbreak and you alchemized it into something beautiful, right? Where you discovered yourself. I think most men, sorry guys, would take an experience like that and just become worse, right? And they'll turn into players and they'll take that heartbreak. And I've seen it, right? And they turn into monsters, I'd say. But you took that heartbreak, alchemized it, and became a better man by reading and discovering yourself again. So, well, I think for our online and our offline and online audience today, it's important to probably note from what you've shared already how you can take what is meant to break you. And I think even on a business journey, right? Like liquidating my first business in 2015, that was heartbreaking. It shattered me to no end, right? So, but you can take that pain and alchemize it and turn it into something beautiful. So I think from what you've shared already, that for me is a key takeaway that I'm hoping would resonate with our audience today. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, so let's then move into, from a business perspective, right? What was your biggest blunder and what did you learn from that as well?
Sure. Pick one to get to where now I'm starting business. I joined a company in the government in the early 90s. From the transition when I was finding myself, I'm being taught how to set goals, how to become a better person, how to be ambitious, how to achieve certain things. So that filtered into the person that I am in terms of my work ethic. So I had to learn how to work hard, how to do what needs to be done. Fast forward a couple of things, KPMG heard about me. Forensic department, they were looking for somebody who's ambitious, who wants to do a couple of things. Cut the story short, health and record was liquidated. My first day there, I was thrown into this deep liquidation as a forensic investigator. I don't know even what forensic investigation is.
Yeah.
As my journey progresses, I then found that in this journey, the people that I'm competing with, which I call colleagues, they've got far more knowledgeable and skilled than I would. Most of them, probably 80 or 90% were accountants and lawyers at the same time. They will have 2 degrees at the same time. Part of finding myself was how to evaluate what value is for me. I decided that I think I need to leave forensic and become an accountant. I resigned from being an accountant. So for the audience, I think it's quite important for me to follow that. I'm talking in terms of the risk that I had to take while I was growing up. And part of that will form part of the blunders that I was using. So one of them was when I resigned from being a forensic guy, because I knew that if I were to become great in what I do, it would become quite hard for me to be able to do it on par when people that I'm with, they've got 2 degrees and I've got 1, and it became quite hard. Then I ended up having to go and do articles. At that time I was almost 30 years, and my first article that I was doing articles, the guys were coming in at around 20, if not 19, somewhere there. So I was the oldest during that time. And then what happened was, fast forwarding, I joined us. I was a corporate financier, I was a deal maker, where I ended up having to do deals. Life was good. The first risk that I did was for me to leave. I left the banking side and I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I need to find closure in regards to getting who I am. I wanted to start business. I wanted to see what is it that life would produce in regards for me. Some of that story was when I decided to leave and do my master's. And I wanted to do internationally during that time. So I looked around and I was asking myself serious questions in regards to why am I not doing it here? And I do it abroad. It was quite hard. And I took the risk in terms of cashing out my pension, selling some of my assets that I did to fund my master's. And I did my master's and I graduated. Then I started the business.
So you did your MBA?
Yes.
Where?
I was in America during that time. It was in 2011.
Okay, which school?
Port. So, come back. My younger brother was owning a scrap. A scrap is a recycling business. As I was joining it in, I started having to structure business. One of the first Blunders started. I went into Eskom, started buying transformers. We were making money. Because of the skill of the deal maker, I started looking for money from people. I think the first financing that I raised was around 500,000 for buying transformers. I promised them that they would get 50-60% returns in the money that they're giving me.
Based on numbers?
Based on the number, no, not even fully done. So I'm buying transformers and then suddenly we are recycling the transformers, selling the copper, selling the aluminum, selling the oil. They believe me. Little did I know that my employees will steal the copper. One of the biggest things that I've learned about trust and about integrity was when I was not fully truthful in regard to understanding what business is about. And one of them was in regards to having to explain myself when we are about to sell the assets that we've recycled. And now they're looking for the money and hardly even can get the capital amount that they did. I was almost fired by my younger brother as a result because we could not pay back the money that was there. And I started the business. I'm running an engineering business. I left my brother and I started running an engineering business. I manufacture parts for consumer markets. Not knowing what to become a CEO means, not knowing what your role is in business, not knowing about processes and systems was one of the biggest blunders for me.
Wow, that's interesting, Pat, because you did your MBA, right?
Yes.
And I've always had this gut feel that what you taught in school is very different to when the rubber hits the road.
Correct.
Was that your experience?
That was my experience.
Wow.
So, I mean, MBA, depending on what you want it to be for you. For me, without having to dwell into it a lot, it taught me in terms of how to start and scale. It taught me how to grow businesses. It taught me how to network, how to put relationships, marketing and finance. So it taught me quite a number of those things. But for me in business, when I started, some of those things you forget them. So some of them is about a simple thing like how to recruit employees was something that I was never taught. So I would have somebody which was part of my blunder. I'm looking for someone to help with finance. Then I'm interviewing you. Then you start telling me about how poor background you're coming from. You really have money, you have not eaten for the last 2 days. Then it's transforming me from the interview that I'm doing to now starting to become emotionally connected with you.
Yeah.
So I am starting to feel for you
Yes.
than knowing whether am I getting the right skill that I'm looking for. So in most instances, one of the blunders was on the recruitment time when I was starting the business. One, the recruitment was bad. I'm a bad recruiter in regards to that.
I want us to park there because I think there's so much value for our audience. When you start your business, I think I'm going to go out on a limb and say, especially as black people, it is crucial for us to stay in our headspace and not in our heart space. Because look at that. You are in your headspace throughout the day. You have one interview that catapults you into your heart space that leads you to making one of your biggest blunders in business, right? And so as much as we are communal and we are collaborators, I've also had to learn over the years. Because one of the stupidest things I would say is, my business is my baby. And because I don't have kids, it was so easy for me to then pour that nurturing energy into my business. And it was dumb. And I could only realize that after liquidating my first business, just how stupid that was, right? But again, in order for you to make healthy decisions for your business, it's crucial that you stay in your head space and not move into your heart space. Pour that heart energy into events like this, or into working with the foundation, or some other place, but not your business. I think especially those early days. Right there?
So for me, yeah, you're right. Recruitment was one of the blunders in terms of how to recruit. I never agreed that I don't have the skill and the know-how to look for the right skill set that you're looking for when you're recruiting. The second part was when you've recruited, people that are able to do a couple of things. One of the biggest blunders, I remember during my early days, there were 3 guys that were doing quite well and the business was doing well. I bought them cars for just performing. And my wife was asking me, wait, why cars? Why not a couple of things? So they would come and say, hey, what can I do for you? So I bought the first one a car, I bought the second one a car, I bought another one the car. And none of them are with me today. But these are the things that are lessons which I never knew, that part of performance or rewarding will require that type of a thing. Or there are other ways that are financial or non-financial in regards to rewarding somebody, because I was buying loyalty. Little did I know that part of loyalty is not how it's done. There are other elements that one can do in terms of as part of growing the business the way you because now part of me was bribing in making sure that they stay with the business. Yeah. And I think the other part that I needed to say loud was, I think in the business itself, purely because I was a CEO and purely because I had no policies. When the business was making money, I started borrowing money to other people. One of the biggest one was another family friends when we were starting a business. They borrowed around more than 100,000 of money from me. And I said to them, I can borrow them on conditions that I become a shareholder to the business.
Wow, Ben, there is so much from this conversation that I'm personally getting, right? I think the first one is to alchemize your pain and turn it into power from your biggest blunder as an 18, 19-year-old. And then the second one is to stay in your head space early on in your startup journey and not in your heart space. And then the third one is not to be guilty, not to feel guilty about your success. Because I think the thing that drove you to buy that loyalty, the thing that drove you to buy them cars, the thing that drove you to make those loans was guilt. You were feeling probably guilty about your own success, right? And so you wanted to share. And the reason why I'm saying that is because it resonates. I did the exact same thing. I felt so guilty when I started making millions that I just wanted to give it to everybody. Right? And I come from a big family, so I was just dishing it out to the family and not necessarily taking care of myself. So I'd love to encourage our audience today that if you are starting out on your entrepreneurial journey, let go of the guilt. And if you need to get a therapist or a counselor or a life coach to help you through some of these things, of how to alchemize your pain into power, how to not journey with guilt, how to, what was the other one? Stay in your head space and not move in your heart space, do that. You'd rather spend money on a business coach than to be popping champagne in Santon on a Friday with the girl. Is what I always advise our entrepreneurs to do, is get a business coach as part of your village mix as early on as you possibly can. So Pat, thank you so much for sharing. Wow, what a journey. Thank you.